Breaking news in the Georgia school shooting investigation. CNN is just obtaining the audio of the sheriff's questioning the alleged 14-year-old shooter last year before he allegedly carried out yesterday's mass shooting at his high school in Georgia, in which he killed 4 people and injured 9 more. Here's what he said when investigators asked him about tips at the time last year in school that he was allegedly threatening a school shooting.
Have you heard anybody on Discord when you were using it say something like that? Do you remember?
Like at that time?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I mean, I'm not trying to get anybody hemmed up, but like this is some serious stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, he knows how serious it is, trust me.
Cause I'd hate to, my boss was even like, I don't know how old this information is, and if you want to wait till Monday to follow up, I was like, nah, I'd rather do it now, because
So would we.
Because God forbid something happened and I didn't do my job, I'd feel pretty bad about this.
I mean, it's just words now. It's hard to hear. God forbid something can happen. And now something has. And it has come as CNN is learning that Gray's father told investigators that he purchased the gun that was used in the killings as a holiday present for his son. Isabel Rosales is out front.
I saw Colt in custody with handcuffs on. He is cooperating with us as far as I know.
Still talking?
He's still talking.
Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith was one of the first responders on campus yesterday.
It was very nerve-wracking going there, not knowing what I was about to walk into or what I was about to see and what the situation was.
Both he and the entire school staff are crediting the fast response from law enforcement to a new security system that was implemented at the school just 1 week ago.
So I had 26 alerts during the incident when it started. Within 5 minutes of the first alert going off, we had the suspect in custody.
The system, called Centegix, works with ID badges that include a panic button that teachers and staff can press in an emergency situation.
It's an ID card, and the teachers can alert and lock the school down, and we got multiple alerts that told us where this was going on.
The 14-year-old suspect spent the night behind bars at a youth detention center, but on Friday, when he makes his first court appearance,
he will be charged with murder and he will be tried as an adult and handled as an adult.
According to a source familiar with the investigation, new details have emerged from the search of the suspect's home. Documents found in his bedroom, believed to be written by him, reference past school shootings, including the 2018 massacre in Parkland, Florida. But this wasn't the first time the suspect had a run-in with law enforcement. A 2023 investigative report says that last year the local sheriff's office received a tip from the FBI about a series of anonymous threats on the chat platform Discord to, quote, shoot up a middle school tomorrow. The tip included photo attachments with a profile name in Russian that translated to Adam Lanza, the Sandy Hook shooter. The suspect and his father were both interviewed, and while his father acknowledged hunting rifles existed in the home, he said his son did not have unsupervised access to them. The suspect denied making the threats to shoot up a school, stating that he would never say such a thing, even in a joking manner. The case was ultimately cleared because law enforcement couldn't substantiate the threats. Now, we've learned Gray's father told investigators he bought the AR-15 for his son after that investigation, and several months before he transferred into Appalachia High School. And authorities are trying to figure out how the suspect managed to get that rifle into the school, especially because he was so new.
He is enrolled in school 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, and only been in school 2 days.
And Aaron, we have breaking news just dropping here in the last minute that the Georgia Bureau of Investigation has arrested Colin Gray, age 54. That is Colt Gray's father, in connection to this deadly shooting at Appalachia High School. Again, that is Colt Gray's father. He's been charged with the following: 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 8 counts of cruelty to children. The GBI will be having a press conference here in the next half hour, so we expect to get more details and an understanding of what led them to these charges here very soon. And Aaron, I do want to leave you with this right here: a community united here as the sun is setting in grief. They're laying flowers, balloons, paying their respects to, again, the 4 dead, 2 teachers, 2 students at Appalachia High School.
And Isabel, just in this breaking news, I mean, we're now hearing the audio, which was just so chilling, of the FBI asking questions of the shooter at his prior school about these threats. That one line, God forbid something happened and I didn't do my job. When that investigator said, I brought him in to ask these questions now, I didn't wait over the weekend. And of course, here we are. Are you learning anything more about, Colin Gray? I mean, do we even know if he's in custody as you get all of these charges, which obviously are extremely significant, especially in the context of the fact that he gave his son this gun, and he is the other voice we hear there in that questioning. He was there with his son.
Right. And we have stunning reporting from my colleagues, Mark Morales and Ryan Young, that found that, again, investigators spoke with the father, with the son, back in May of last year. But then about 6 to 7 months later, as a holiday or a Christmas gift, he bought this same gun that was used to carry out this attack as a gift to his son. I spoke with the sheriff earlier, who told me that anything was on the table, including possible charges against Colin Gray, his father, Colt Gray's father, who had custody of his son. And here we are hours later, and he's been charged. The biggest question, again, is how Colt allegedly got access to this gun, right? How it wasn't unlocked, how he managed to get it inside of the school. That is what led to these charges, and we hope to find out more from the GBI here in the next half hour.
All right. Well, Isabel, as you get that, of course, we're going to come back to you as we get more information. Thank you very much. And I think also just important to emphasize, Isabel, Ryan, Mike's reporting, and as she's laying that out, that you hear that questioning, you hear the father brought in with his son for that questioning, and it was after that questioning, 6 months after, when he gave his child the gun that his child then used to murder people yesterday in Georgia. I want to go to Tim Clemente now, former FBI special agent and SWAT team member. Tim, I just as we're hearing this audio, as I said, it is hard to listen to. You heard that agent and the sheriff say, look, I just, God forbid something happened, I do my job, I want to bring you in now, I want to do this questioning. Let me play a bit more of the audio that we've obtained.
Do you have weapons in the house?
I do.
Are they accessible to him?
They are. I mean, there's nothing loaded, but they are down.
Okay.
We do a lot of shooting. We do a lot of deer hunting. He shot his first deer this year.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, so like I'm pretty much in shock, to be honest with you.
Well,
I'm a little pissed off, to be even really honest with you. If that is what was said.
That, Tim, that he's referring to are the threats about shooting a school that they brought in Colt Gray, the alleged shooter here, to ask him about. So 7 months after that conversation, when they're talking, that's the father talking about his son's access to guns. 7 months after that conversation, he gives him a gun. He gives him a gun for Christmas, and that is the gun that his son used to kill people yesterday. How do you even process this?
Aaron, it's almost impossible to process. Obviously, the father didn't take those threats seriously, didn't consider his son as the suspect that may have made those threats. The visit by the local sheriff's department investigators to talk to the son and the father as a 13-year-old kid that possibly made those threats, you would think that it might wake the father up, that maybe he didn't know everything he should know about his son. And it's disheartening that he would be so stupid as to, he says in the interview that my son does have access to weapons and, they're not loaded, but he has access to them. And then he just increases that access with an additional rifle that was tragically used yesterday.
I mean, it is really incredible. So you heard the investigator say, my supervisor said, are you going to do this today or do you want to wait through the weekend in terms of the questioning of this kid, the alleged shooter, Colt, who now is 14, at the time was 13? Because God forbid something happened, I didn't do my job. I'd feel pretty bad about that. Now, you hear there in the follow-up, the 13-year-old saying, oh, I would never make such a threat. I would never do anything. I know this is serious. I know. So, and then that was it. It all went away. When you hear all of this, does it make sense to you that it kind of went away? I mean, this kid then transferred to a new school. I don't know what level of awareness they had about any of this history.
Well, Aaron, that's the biggest question that I have is what awareness did the new school have? Did his teachers have that maybe this is a kid they should be looking at more closely? Now, obviously a threat is significant enough that it goes from the FBI to the local authorities to investigate further. But it's not enough to arrest the kid because they really can't tie his fingerprints to that threat, even though it may have come from his IP address, his email address, whatever the connections were.
Yeah.
They may not have had enough to actually charge him with anything if they were able to prove that it was his threat. But it doesn't mean you don't look more closely at the kid. As a parent, as a teacher, as school administrators, everyone should have been looking more closely at this kid and his behavior. And obviously they weren't.
No, and I mean, I was talking to the kid who sits next to him, who was sitting next to him in algebra when he got up to leave. And she said, well, I didn't think anything of it because he's always skipping class, right? Already this year, 1 month into school, the kid who sits next to him knew that this kid had issues and problems just because of that. No other interaction. But these are things that in the context of what they knew, obviously should have stood out.